Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome back to Elite Dangerous on the PlayStation 4. Now in the previous video we went through some passenger missions and actually picked up a passenger ship, which was the Dolphin. That's the one I'm flying right now. In today's video what I want to have a look at is exploration. Now a few people have asked me all about this, and for me it's actually one of the best parts of the game. There's not a huge deal of actual gameplay there when it comes to exploration, at least currently, but what there is a whole galaxy full of absolutely wonderful sights. So what I want to show you is how to get there, what sort of ship you need, and basically how to find some of the great places to look at and explore. So what we're going to need is a fairly significant outlay, at least at this stage in the game. I know many of you have been playing the game since release, so you've probably built up more cash than I've got at this point. I've been playing on and off, so what I've got here is 11.2 million. I've got around about, well, quite a few million tied up with this ship, as you'll probably remember from the other video. But if we have a look here at our statistics, we can see what my total assets are currently worth. So yeah, my current assets are worth 21 million, and that's because I've got quite a bit tied up in this ship here, and I've got a fair amount tied up in my Cobra. Now, I don't really want to sell these ships. I actually like to try and keep them to hand, so I can call them over when I want to do certain types of missions. So what I'm going to need is a good amount of money to buy the exploration ship that I'm actually planning on getting. And what I'll do is I'll show you the setup for that exploration ship, and you'll be able to copy it or build one very similar. But what you will need is a layout of around about 12.5 to 13.5 million. And as you can see, I'm a little bit short, but fortunately I did run a community goal back around the release of the game. The first one was in Erevet, which earned me a big chunk of money, or I think it might have been in Escelas Primus actually, and the other one was in Rakapilla here. So if I'm going to head to the mission board, I can pick up my reward. Hopefully it's here. Yes, we can see restoring order in Rakapilla, and I'm going to pick up that, and I've got a nice reward there of 4.5 million, and that's going to bring me up to the right amount of money so that I can make the purchase that I need to today. And whilst we're here, we can have a look at some of the other community goals that are currently running. We've got an asteroid base appeal. Let's have a look at what that is. Null. I assume that's null because the correct text is actually missing. An independent organisation based in LTT 4961 has announced plans to build a new base at Greg's Legacy, and large asteroid named after one of the organisation's founding members. So if we go down, you can see there's no reward there for that currently, and that's because there's not enough materials actually delivered. But they're worth signing up to and heading on over and getting some money. And this one is a combat orientated community goal, and you can see that's already a tier 3 unlocked, and you can see there's going to be some nice rewards there. So if you're a bit short on money, then sign up to one of these and you'll probably earn yourself a nice wage. So then what I'm going to do now is head on over to the correct system to pick up the ship and the materials that I actually need, the ship and the modules rather. And you may remember from my previous video I showed you how to go about doing that. Go to the website edshipyard.com to look for your build, and go to the website eddb.io to look to see what stations have the ship and the modules in stock. So I'm going to head there now, and I'll see you there in just a moment. So here I am then at the station of Ray Enterprise in the system GQ Virginius. This has actually got the ship and all the modules that I want, and if you're planning on copying the build that I've got, then you're welcome to come to here. I highly recommend coming here, in fact, because it will save you travelling all over the place to find the components that you need. Now the build I'm about to show you, you will also be able to adapt and modify to suit other ships as well. It's by no means exclusive to the ship I'm about to purchase. But effectively, the ship I'm about to get here is one of the most cost effective for the jump travelling ranges that you're going to want. Now I recommend when you're going exploring, you want to go out into the depths of space, then you want the highest jump range that you can actually get. And if you can get around about 30 light years, then you're going to be able to reach most places, at least in the nearby vicinity. There'll still be some out of reach places of course, and even with a massive jump range of around 50 light years, there's still plenty of places that you won't be able to actually reach. But 30 light years is a good starting position. Now, not all ships will be able to reach 30 light years. I think you might just be able to make it in a Cobra with the maximum jump drive and perhaps a few modifications as well. The other option is to use the engineers, and using the engineers and some jump modifications, you'll be able to get a significantly increased jump range. But we're not looking at that right now. What we're looking at is the base outfitting. So then, what we're going to do is first we're going to pick up the ship, and then we're going to buy the necessary modules. And the ship we want is a Diamondback Explorer. Actually has a fantastic jump range. Like I say, you can explore in other ships. When I first started playing Elite, I did it in a Sidewinder, and I got all the way, or very close to all the way out to the Maya system, which is in the Pleiades Nebula, way back at release, and it was a long way away back then. I think I changed to an Eagle about halfway through. And most of my other exploration journeys I did back then in a Cobra. But the Hauler, that can have a fairly good jump range, and it's a very cheap ship. The Viper doesn't have such a good jump range. That's because it's a combat focused ship. But if all you can afford is a Cobra, then you can go with that. But what I'm going to go with, oh, and while we're looking at it, the Type 6 Transporter also has a fairly good jump range. The Diamondback Explorer here is 1.8 million, so not too bad. And that is what I'm going to purchase. And we're going to store my current ship because I want to keep the Dolphin. Personally, I think the Diamondback Explorer is a very nice looking ship. So here we go to outfitting. And the first thing we look at are the core modules. And there you can see the Diamondback that I've just purchased. Or actually, what we look at is utility mounts. Now, this is entirely optional for you, but if you are an explorer, you can get heat damage. It's one of the only ways you can actually get damage aside from crashing into the surface of planets. So one way to get around that is to have a heat sink. And if you end up crashing into a sun or getting too close into the vicinity of the sun and dropping out of super cruise, you may want to use a heat sink to keep your temperature low. So buy one of these. You can buy more, but one should be enough. Obviously, the more you have, the lower your jump range will be. Look at the jump range down at the bottom of the screen there. You can see that my current jump range is 15 light years, and we want to get it up to around about the 30 mark. So core modules. The first thing we're going to do is buy the frameshift drive, and this is actually the most expensive purchase of the entire setup. We want to get the best one we can get. We need a size 5, and we want an A graded one. So 5A, you can see 5.1 million, so significantly more expensive than the cost of the ship. But look what it does to our jump range, 33 light years. Very nice. And we will exchange this. We don't want to store the old one. Now, as I've said before, mostly you can derate these. Now, derated are not the best ones you can have, really, and they also do add heat to your ship. But don't worry too much about that. What they do is increase your jump range. And you can see with the 4 E thrusters there, it's 33.35 at its max. And here it goes up to 33.9. So certainly worth changing out. And I'm going to derate everything except for the power plant. I think the power plant is going to need to be a 4C, and you'll see why in a little bit. We go for 4C here. What's this? 178,000. So all of this does add up. Like I say, you could need around about 12 million for this particular build. What else? We want to derate everything else in the core modules. Again, just to increase our jump range. And you can see now we're going up to 34.67. It will come down a little bit when we start adding in some of the optional modules, but it shouldn't come down by too much. Power distributor doesn't matter too much. You really don't need a power distributor of too much significance on an exploration vessel. In fact, you could probably get away with a 3D. 3D is 35.46 light years, and a 4D is 35.26, so nearly a half a light year more. I'm going to go for a 4D because I like to have the boost in case I get, in case I end up going down too fast on a high G world, which I've done from time to time, and the ability to boost really does save your neck. So I'm going to go for that, but you can go for a lower one, and you can even go for a smaller sized one if you need. And again with the sensors, 3D to bring us up to a nice round 35.5 light years. Okay, fuel tank stays as it is. And then we go to the optional internals. Now, the second most expensive item you're going to purchase for the ship, or it may end up being the most expensive item, is the fuel scoop. If you're going out into deep space, you will need a fuel scoop. You need to be able to replenish your fuel. And I always recommend going for the best fuel scoop you can afford. And in this case, that means you putting it in the largest slot, completely replacing the shield. And we're going to go for 4A. This is 2.8 million credits, so a little bit cheaper than the fuel, the FSD, but still pretty expensive. Second most expensive module on the ship, and certainly more expensive than the ship as well. In the second slot here, what we're going to put is an auto field maintenance repair unit. Now you can get away without having an AFM, but you never know. Sometimes you do pick up damage from various activities and various mistakes, and these allow you to repair different elements of your ship. Now you can see the 4A is very, very expensive. Have one of them if you can afford it. They do take up a lot of energy on your ship, but you can power these down until you actually need them. But for cost purposes, I'm going to go for a 4C. Okay, we're nearly getting there, nearly completely outfitted. The next thing we want is a shield generator. Now some people fly without the shield, and you can do that, but touching down on the surface of planets will sometimes cause a little bit of damage, but that can be repaired by an AFM. But personally, I like to fly with the shield. I'd rather play it safe, but they do bring down your jump range a little bit, although nothing too drastic. I'm going to go with, I might go with a 3A. What have we got here? Go with a bi-weave. I'm going to go with a 3A, but totally up to you. You can go without a shield, or you can go with any other shield you can afford, or any other shield that you fancy. And finally, if you've got the, well, not finally, not quite yet, but if you've got Horizon's version of the game, then you're going to want to be able to go down on planets, and you're probably going to want to be able to drive around, and for that you want a planetary hangar. You've got two options here. You have a 2H or a 2G. Now the 2G takes up more power, you can see down the bottom, but it also gives you a greater jump range. The difference is 35.4 here for a 2G as opposed to 34.8 for a 2H. I'm going to go for the slightly more expensive option, the one with the higher power requirements. And you can see this is why I went for a slightly higher rated power plant. I needed the power to be able to power these. Okay, and the last things you want, well, we do need a vehicle. Don't forget to put a vehicle in there. I've gone plenty of light years before. I need to find out I forgot to put a vehicle in the hangar. And the last thing you're going to want is a discovery scanner. Now these allow you to discover the planets in a system. When you first jump into a system that's not been that you haven't explored before, then all you'll see there is the stars. You won't be able to see the planets. And to discover those, you're going to need a discovery scanner. They all have different ranges. The one you're going to want, if you can afford it, is the Advanced Discovery Scanner. And you can see the range here. The basic Discovery Scanner is just 500 light seconds. The Intermediate is 1000 light seconds. And the Advanced has an infinite range. So one use of this, one activation of this, and it will show you all the planets inside any particular system. And lastly, you'll want a detailed surface scanner. And this allows you to get additional information about a planet, and also gives you a greater credit reward when you come back and hand in your discovery information. So there we go, a fully outfitted ship. And of course, if you want, you can put some livery options on. I don't have any currently for the ship, I don't think. No, we don't have anything just yet for the Diamondback, but the option's there if you want it. And of course you can put your nameplates on the side. Actually, what we will do, I'm going to go back to outfitting here, because there's one thing I've just thought of. Now, some people recommend to take these, other people don't. But I've got two weapons on this ship. Now, I don't need these. I've never had the need for weapons when out exploring. That may change in the future, as aliens eventually are going to turn up. We don't know what they're going to do with us out in deep space. But the possibility is that they leave us alone. But we certainly get left alone out there for the moment. Now what I'm going to do is just take a single pulse laser. Sometimes you come across things you might want to shoot at. not in terms of defense, but in terms of getting access to certain things. Maybe some sort of structure or body that you need to shoot at. And here I'm going to put in a mining laser, assuming they're available at this station. Now the reason I want a mining laser is because they allow me to collect materials whilst out in deep space. Now I may want to refuel, or I may want to restock my AFM, and if I'm not down on a planet picking them up with my SRV, I can actually get other materials or from asteroids. To do that we're going to need a mining laser. It doesn't drop your jump range down too much, so you may as well go with one of them. So what's the point of exploration then? Well, there's two purposes for it. One is for universal cartographics here. This is purely the reason some people play, and universal cartographics is the place where you go and sell all your discovery data at. So here, these are some systems that I've actually flown through on the way over here or on my recent journeys, and you can see all I've discovered here in the Ori system is Ori A. That's the central star, so all I'm going to get for that is 400 credits. Same here for Wolf 401, same here for the Hall system. But these values can dramatically increase as you discover systems and as you populate that system by finding the other planets that are in there, as well as getting detailed scans. Then what you'll do is get a higher value. Different planets have a different value, and that's something we'll have a look at as we go in. And then when you return to the station, you can actually sell that data and get yourself a bit of money. And what that does is increase your exploration rank. You can see I'm mostly aimless at the moment, but that will increase as you sell more data back. Now the other thing you get for doing exploration is a discovered by tag. If we go to the system map here, we'll be able to take a look at that once it loads up. And what this is about is that the first person to discover any particular planet, the first person to get that data back to the station and sell it to Universal Cartographics, will get their name attached to any particular planet. And we can't see that here. That's probably because these ones have long been discovered. Some of them were already populated when the game first went live. But we'll see some of them, no doubt, as we actually start travelling around on our explorations. And of course the other type of explorer, what they love to do, and this is my favourite activity, is going out to look for gorgeous looking sights. Unusual looking areas, nebula, or even down on planets you might find unusual surfaces there. Basically anything. Some people call it sightseeing. I prefer calling it exploration, true discovery. So what do we do then? We need the galaxy map for this, and this is where we plot our first course. You can actually see I'm only down to 2.9 million here, and on the functions tab you can see my jump range is 35 light years, so very nice. We can improve that with the engineers if we want, as I showed you in a previous video, but we don't want to do that. What we want to do now is plot a course. So let's look at the galaxy map. The galaxy is absolutely massive. I don't know if you're fully aware, if you're new to the game, but there are 400 billion star systems, and as far as I'm aware, so far there's less than 0.01% of that actually discovered by players. And at the current rate of exploration, it's going to take players many hundreds of years to actually discover all of it. So when you want to explore the galaxy, and Sagittarius A is a popular location here in the middle of the galaxy, and we can't actually zero in on that just yet. I'm not going to go and do that, but that is quite a distance. I believe it's around about 30,000 light years away. Other people like to actually go out and look for black holes, and I think I just saw a few of them scattered around. A little bit more difficult to navigate on this map without a mouse. I'm not used to using the joypad here. So you may want to head towards Sagittarius A anyway, the supermassive black hole at the centre of the galaxy. Let's see, we've got all the markers on here. So that's a significant distance. There is another area of space out here at Colonia. That's where you can find some space stations that's inhabited. That's another popular destination. We'll type that in. Colonia. And we'll see how far that is. Now what's nice about Colonia is that in addition to there being stations there, as well as once you're there you can partake in missions. It is 22,000 light years away, but it's actually right near a nebula, and you can see there's loads of stars there. There's also a load of other nebula right nearby. So another popular destination. Let's get back to the start area, and as we're travelling across the map there you can see all the other nebula dotted around, loads of them, and these are often the first locations that people, when they start out exploring, actually head towards, and they were for me. What I'm going to do is head towards Barnard's Loop over here. It's a little bit difficult to get to because around Barnard's Loop are a lot of permit locked systems, and you can't actually easily get into those. So what I suggest you do is head towards the Witchhead Nebula first if you want to go towards there, and we should be able to find that here with a search, I hope. Assuming it actually comes up as a search destination. So yeah, there we go, another little nebula. You can't actually get right inside this nebula. That's something I also recommend you look out for. As you're searching around on the galaxy map, have a look at all these stars around here. You can see that none of them are located right inside the nebula. That one looks like it is until we actually pivot the camera and we see it's actually on the outer edge. So if you do want to see all the gorgeous colourful backdrops of nebula, generally speaking, you'll want to be able to get right inside that. Now this is a distance of 900 light years. You can't plot a course currently beyond 1000 light years, so you have to do it in 1000 light year segments. If we actually go out beyond that, it would say it's unable to plot a route there. So we've got two options here. Over here we can do economical routes, and that actually gives us very short jumps, but what it does is conserve your fuel. But what we want is fastest routes, because we've got a fuel scoop, and that will get us there in the best possible time and the least number of jumps. And the game will actually plot a course here right now. It does take a few months to do that sometimes. Sometimes it will also say it's failed to plot a route there, and that will be because either your ship isn't capable of the jumps necessary to get there, or because there's a number of permit locked systems around this area. Permit locked systems, by the way, are systems that you can't get into without having a necessary permit, and as I say, there's a whole bunch of them around the Horsehead Nebula and Barnard's Loop over there. So this is where we're going to head to first, and as we come out you'll be able to see how many jumps it's going to take to get there, and you can see that's 30 jumps. You can average out a jump at being around about a minute a jump, so it'll take around about a half hour to get out there to the Witchhead Nebula. That's assuming that you keep jumping without stopping, but there may be a few things along the way that you want to take a look at. So we're going to head out now and start our exploration, start our expedition towards the Witchhead Nebula and eventually Barnard's Loop. Regardless of how you're travelling then, what sort of jump range you've got or what type of ship you've got, one thing you always want to keep in mind, especially after a lot of jumps, is to decelerate or change the direction of your course when you exit hyperspace. If you maintain your course, you'll end up crashing into the outer edges of the star here, and that will cause a bit of damage to your hull, and it will also cause some heat build-up, and it can be a bit of a pain to escape the area then. Now, what you can see here is the fuel scoop, where actually at the bottom bar represents our fuel tank, and that is actually filling up. And the gauge you really want to pay attention to is the heat at the top, currently at 68%, and probably with the Diamondback Explorer here it won't build up too much beyond that, partially due to the setup I've got, and partially due to the fact this is quite a cool running ship. You can either come to a complete stop here within this sort of range of the sun, and the ship will keep building up fuel, or what you can do is what I was doing there, keep flying around the edges of the star and scooping fuel. Either way you do it, wait until you've got a full tank and then you can move on again, or you can move on again with a partially filled tank. It's entirely up to you. Now we're in a new star system here. Also, one other thing to bear in mind is to make sure you move away from the star, either after your tank is full up, or once you start getting too much heat. Once you get around about the 80 mark, that's a good time to start moving away. As soon as you get 100% heat build up, after that you'll start taking heat damage. So then, we're here in a new system, and if we have a look at the system map, and you can actually notice there's only 4 unexplored sections of this star system. Why is there 4? Because we haven't explored any of it at all. Why is it only showing... Why does it sometimes only show 1 and sometimes it show 4? Well, the reason for that is because the game will also always show the main stars within any particular system. And here you can see Novatech was the first person to discover these stars. But we can't see anything else in here. Everything else is completely blanked out. Now there may or there may not be anything else in this system, and I'm trying to scroll to the right, and that's as far as I'm able to go. So my suspicion is that this is probably all we'll actually see. But this is where you want the discovery scanner, and it's not actually working at the moment, and that's because I haven't got it bound to a fire group. So come to the right menu here, and you'll want to bind whatever it is to your fire group. You may want it onto trigger 1, or you may want it on trigger 2. I'm going to bind the advanced discovery scanner here to item 2. Now you'll notice there's not a detailed discovery scanner here. That's because you don't need to actually activate that one to use it. So when you've bound it to a fire group, you can actually hold down the trigger, and you'll see it charging up there to the bottom left. We get a blast of the horn there, and we can see there's 3 new astronomical objects discovered. And we can go back to the system map to see what those actually are. And it's not showing us anything. So the chances are it's probably just telling us that it's actually discovered these other 3 stars, despite the fact it already knew about them. Now they're currently listed as unexplored, and there's something we can do about that. If you target a star, we'll target the closest one here. And you can do that from a multiple of locations. You can target from the nav menu here. And I'll show you. You can also tag a location from the system map here. And you'll see that once you've done that, it will be selected. You can see it selected there. And the other way you can do it is simply point your ship at it and press the X button and select it. Now you can see that one's unexplored. And our ship down the bottom, our detailed scanner now is actually scanning it. You can see that down next to the hologram on the bottom left of the HUD, the little icon spinning round. It takes about 30 seconds, and once it's done that, it will give us some details on that particular planet or that particular star. Now the range at which you can do a detailed scan will vary. On large bodies such as stars, it will scan at a vast distance, in this case 1,300 light seconds. But on smaller objects such as planets, you'll have to be closer, and on very small objects such as planetoids or moons, you'd have to be even closer still. So you can see now that is an M-class red dwarf star. And again, if we go towards the system map, we actually see that we've got some more information. What one was it? I believe it was this one, wasn't it? We use the shoulder buttons here. We can move across, and it gives us more information. When compared to the one that hasn't been detailed, we can see we've got a little bit more information on this one here. And as we move down, there we go. But what we want, what's more interesting, is planets. So we're going to look at the nav panel here again, and we're going to scroll to the one that's got the little plot icon there to the right of the name. If we select that, that will plot our jump course back in, so we can resume our journey. Now there's certain stars that you cannot refuel from. Stars like this you'll find as we get nearby, we're not going to be able to refuel. So that's something you're going to have to watch out for, because obviously if you have too many of them in a row, you're going to end up with an empty fuel tank. And if you have an empty fuel tank, then you're then stranded and you won't be able to go anywhere. At that point, you've only got one option in terms of actual in-game play options, and that's to self-destruct. There is another option, which is an out-of-game option essentially, but that does result in some rather interesting emergent in-game gameplay, and that is to contact the player group known as the Fuel Rats. They've got a website. You can actually put in a request there, and what they will do is send out a player with some fuel inputs to refuel you. What I'll do is link their website in the video description, and you can head on out to find more information about that particular player group. Fantastic player group, very, very helpful people. So on this occasion, you can see we've found 31 discoveries in this particular planet, in this particular system rather, and we'll jump into the system map here to have a look at what those are. On this occasion, you're going to find that we've got a load of planets. Now, we've still got inhabited bodies with bases on them, because we're not outside the inhabited bubble just yet. And most of these, if not all of them, it's very likely all of them are going to have discovered by tags on them. So we need to travel a bit further before we find anything that's not been discovered by someone else. Now the thing is, sometimes I see comments from other players saying that it's impossible for them to discover undiscovered systems. Wherever they go, they always find someone else's name tagged onto it. And the reason for that is very simple. It's because they're starting out in an inhabited system, a popular system probably, and heading towards a popular destination. Just like I've done here, I've started out from a Celis Primus or thereabouts, and I've headed towards the Witchhead Nebula. Now many people over the years will have plotted that exact same route, and the in-game computer will plot them pretty much the same journey depending on their jump range. So it's highly likely that every system you go through in that case is going to have been trodden on by other players. If you want to discover unknown planets, undiscovered planets, then what you need to do is go somewhere no one has been before. And the way to do that is go well outside the inhabited region. You may want to go many tens of thousands of light years, but that's if you keep on the same plane. We'll have a look at the galaxy map in a minute. There is another way of finding undiscovered planets much closer to home. And we'll have a look just as we come out here. So here we are in another system. We're going to fuel up a bit, and we're going to do another discovery scan, and we'll see what we've got this time. We've got 19 planetary bodies, or astronomical objects as the game calls them. But what I was talking about is, if we go to the galaxy map here, we've got another option to us. What you'll find is that the vast majority of people start looking for locations to explore on the same plane, on the same level that they're actually already on. But the galaxy isn't flat. The galaxy has depth to it, both upwards and downwards. So we can go down here, or we can go up. Let's have a look. We'll zoom out a bit. You can actually go down by using the little touchpad, one of the corners on the PlayStation controller. And you can see we actually can go down. We can actually go down a significant distance. The Witchhead Nebula is quite a way down already, but we can go down a lot further than that. And you'll find that very few people actually spend time going down or even up. That sounds a bit bad, doesn't it? But yeah, what we can do is plot the course out here. You'll find that the destination is, again, around about 1,000 light years. You can actually plot way beyond. You can't plot way beyond that, but you can actually go way beyond that by first coming to here and then plotting another 1,000 light year jump. But if you go up or if you go down, you'll find that you're much more likely to find undiscovered systems. And one other thing worth mentioning is that to get your name attached to it, you can't just do an advanced discovery scan blast. You can't just use the discovery scanner here. Whilst that will reveal the planets in the system to you, it won't get your name attached to them. You actually have to do a surface scan. It doesn't have to be a detailed surface scan. If you haven't got a detailed surface scan fitted, it doesn't matter. But you will need to do a basic surface scan, and that means flying to near the vicinity of the planet and just pointing your ship and selecting the planet and just doing the basic scan. And then once you get home and settle that data, you'll then get your name attached to that planet, assuming it hasn't already been discovered. And most of these in this vicinity are going to be discovered. So if you want to have a look at that, that's something I'm going to save for a future video. In fact, there's a whole lot of other options on the galaxy map that we could go through. Some of them that are very, very useful for scanning, and very briefly I'll show you one of the most important ones now, but the rest I'll save for another video. Right here, if we come along to the star tab, we've got a realistic option and we've got a map option. Now here we can filter all the stars, and currently all the stars are filtered by allegiance. You can see they will be coloured according to whatever their allegiance is. In this case, it's grey. They've got no allegiance. And most of them out this way will now start to actually get grey. But as we're back towards the inhabited bubble, you can see they're yellow and red and green and blue, depending on whatever their allegiance is. In fact, very quickly, seeing as we are getting to the outer edge here, I just want to see if what we're in, if this system we're in here. Oh, no, we haven't done. I'm sure I did do a discovery. Oh, that's the next system along. Getting a bit muddled up. What I'm going to do is have a very quick look at the system map here, just to see whether or not this is an inhabited system. And you can see that from your nav panel as well. But it's not inhabited. But again, they have been discovered by other people for the reasons I've already mentioned. But let's jump back to the galaxy map. And we want to go across to the star tab here. You do have the realistic option, you have the map option, already filtered to allegiance, like I already said. Just go down on D-pad. And what we want to change this to is star class. Very important. Also something you might want visited stars, because that will show you places you haven't visited. And out of 400 billion, there's going to be a heck of a lot of places you haven't visited. But we're going to change the this to star class. And what we're going to filter it out is by the type of stars that you can actually refuel at. Now, there's only certain stars that you can actually refuel at, and the way I remember that is by KGB foam. Filter out any letters that don't fit into that. So anything below here, basically. L, T, Y, and all the rest. It does mean that we won't see some of the more spectacular stars. So you may, for example, only want to see white dwarfs or non-sequence stars. Non-sequence stars would include neutron stars and black holes. So we could actually get rid of all these filters here and only have non-sequence stars. And that would show us where the black holes are and where the neutron stars are if we want to go looking for them. But again, that's something I'll cover in another video. For now, we're just looking for KGB foam. These are the stars we can refuel at, as I just mentioned. And what we can then do is apply that filter to our route. Let's just get the route in view here. And when we apply that, you'll see our course will just change very slightly. I believe it should anyway. Unless we're very lucky and already got entirely fuelable stars on the route. But that applies that filter to our route, meaning that we will only come across stars that we can refuel at on the rest of our journey. So a very handy filter. So then, there's Barnard's Loop over in the distance. And just to its left now, we can see the blue of the Witchhead Nebula, which is our destination. I'll be back later on and we can go into exploration in a little bit more detail, but I think this covers most of the basics and should get you well on the way into exploring the depths of the galaxy. Meanwhile, I've got a whole ton of other videos where I go out and show you some of the fantastic sights out there, so be sure to check them out. As always, thanks for watching. And I'll catch you guys and girls next time.